Welcome to I Have Something to Say, where unfiltered opinions meet raw authenticity. If you're tired of the same old canned answers and crave genuine conversations about real issues, then you've landed in the right spot. So buckle up for a roller coaster of diverse perspectives. Yours truly, Samí Haiman-Marrero, and my co-host, Chris Majocha, will dive headfirst into topics that impact our daily lives. From the boardrooms to the streets, get ready to hear real people cut through the BS and deliver the discussions you've been waiting for. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of I Have Something to Say. And I have to say, it's a special one. Today, we have 200 episodes produced and shared with all of you. And I'm just stoked to be here with Dr. Xaulanda and with Chris. We were all there at the beginning and just excited to have this celebratory conversation in the midst of all the craziness and chaos and anxiety that we're all experiencing right now, with what's going on in the world. I feel like this is nice. It's a nice pause, and nothing better than to do it internationally. I mean, we're here or US domestically and abroad, right? Because we're all based out of different regions and states of the U.S. And so, hi, Chris and Xaulanda. I'm so happy to see you.
So happy to see you. Crazy to be here at the episode 200. I was just like memory lane going down here.
Yeah, I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Xaulanda's been an OG since the beginning as well. We had a little bit bigger crew for a little while, and Xaulanda's been there from the phone call in the car, I believe, that
Yes, that's right.
that where this all came to be.
That started one of our road trips. It was on one of our road trips. Listen, people, sometimes the best ideas come when you just unplug and you take a long drive, which I quite frankly hate driving long distances, but when you're in good company, right? And who was with us? I think Luna was in the car, right, Xaulanda?
Yeah, it was you, myself, and Luna in the car heading to Miami on I-95, and Chris was over the speaker in the car.
Like the voice of God, right?
Yeah. We're like, we want to do a podcast.
And that was what was that, March of 2018, right? I think so we're somewhere.
No, that's exactly right. It was March of 2018. We clearly were all stepping into, something new that none of us had experienced. I feel that now looking back, so many wonderful talent. There's so much wonderful talent out there, right? And so many different voices and formats, it's kind of like become a thing, right? But we were leaning in on Chris's expertise. We're like, okay, he's the millennial in the group. Let him figure this shit out, right?
And by expertise, I mean I just went on YouTube, which I think at the time was still becoming a popular thing for finding information. And started this off as the audio podcast, going to the library.
The library, yeah.
Yep.
Was interesting.
But fun. I think
it was good to have people who trusted us as we embarked on this new adventure. I remember it would be you, me, Luna, and Samí in the room. We're all like tag teaming. Kelly Burton was on. She was one of our first guests. Dwight Dillon was one of our first guests. It was like we were just tapping into our inner circle to have these conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were very, very blessed and fortunate, and I want to give a shout out to Wendy Bost, who's
Mm-hmm.
now the director of all the public libraries in Brevard County. But back then, she was the director of the libraries in Orange County. And so, it was just a matter of a quick phone call and say, hey, we need some space to record a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately she said yes, right? So we were touching free space. Listen, talk about minimal viable product, right?
Right.
Yes. Yes. Totally. And I remember I just told Chris, listen, I have no idea where to begin. Just send me the links to all the shit you need to buy in Amazon and let's get the basic equipment, right? You remember that, Chris? Yep. Yeah. And
Yeah, we got a little starter kit, and got our subscription to like an audio hosting site, and just hit the ground running. And some of you kind of opened up the episode talking about, in these crazy times that we're here at episode 200, and I don't know, it's kind of interesting to think back to what we've covered on this show, from the range of topics through other crazy times, post Hurricane Maria, the kind of political unrest in Puerto Rico. We had COVID, George Floyd. I mean, we have kind of gone through the ringer here, and it's just kind of cool to have like a testament, or to be able to look back and have that dialogue, or that backlog, kind of a snapshot of history and time and how people were feeling, because that is what the show is about, is people coming on to say what they have to say. But I'm also extremely excited. I'm honestly more excited than ever. And I know, Samí, I think probably about 6 months ago, we had a conversation of what I think it was Scott, our wonderful designer of all the branding here at I Have Something to Say. But he was like, what are you guys really doing with this podcast at this point? And Samí and I had a conversation, and we kind of just switch gears to make more content out of this, and roped in Xaulanda again to discuss issues to impact, our kind of brand new segment that are if you've been listening, you've been seeing this the last couple months. And honestly, I think that has been, to me, such a cool thing of just moving into that issues to impact a segment, and how that walks away, or people walk away with tangible business advice. But a lot of that advice, especially for me, is Samí, you were kind of leading the show here for the longest time, and I was in the background and just kind of absorbing and listening to all these guests. And I feel like I've learned so much, both personally but also professionally, from the episodes that we've had on this podcast. And obviously, from the expertise of people like yourselves, who just add so much insight and contribution to this. And it's been a pleasure to be along the ride with both of you.
Oh, we love you too. Well, we've learned a lot too. I feel like I've expanded my technical abilities, and one of the biggest things is that I've lost fear. Right? And so then when I see apparatuses and devices now, I'm not fearful, I'm curious, right? And I think that's huge. That's a huge growth for me, because to me it's like, I'm not going to touch it because I'm going to break it and then I got to pay for it. So I'm like, and so to me it's been huge, because exploring these ways of doing that minimal viable product, which was back then, right? And all the wonderful guests that we had, and man, lugging around all this equipment. And it was so funny, because at the beginning you were like, after like a year, you're like, oh, we should maybe consider doing video. And I'm like, man, you want to complicate this? It's like, we're already kind of like on cruise control. And here he goes wanting to add like more equipment. And I'm like, ugh, I don't want to do this. And then COVID hit. Yep. And then we had to pivot, that famous word, right? Pivot. Yeah. And then here we are, and then Xaulanda, I mean, just her way of just helping structure things, right? And to bring her now into the fold in a more present way, like you this year. I honestly, it takes a weight off my shoulders too. And I find it more fun, right? Because it really adds on more perspectives. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as Chris was talking about where we started, we were all in the same place. We would be in the same room, and to see the evolution from being in the same room to us now being in different parts of the country and going from audio to video and getting 2 Telly Awards.
Yep.
Congratulations.
What's
Yeah,
that there?
yeah. That Sammy's sitting behind her. Yeah, it's like,
I
there's
can't
so
do
many
it.
there's so many podcasts out there that haven't achieved that type of recognition, and because of the social impact that they're having, that when you think of 5 years, yeah, it could seem like a long time, but it's like a 5-year-old, right? They're still learning,
Mhm.
they're still growing,
Mhm.
they're still maturing. So I'm excited to see where I have something to say goes as it continues to grow and evolve, and who knows where this journey is going to take us.
Yeah,
And
totally. Yeah.
Sammy, you were talking about kind of like the growth that you've had and that we've all had. I just want to
Mhm.
point out, when we started this, we did not have a doctor in the house.
Oh, we
Um,
did not.
Xaulanda has become a master here for us. And Sammy, I will just say, even personally, not that you were in any way like hindered at the beginning, but your interview skills, your ability to be comfortable on the microphone in front of the camera with a stranger and open up and kind of break bread with them. At first and naturally, I think when anybody starts, you kind of have these like walls up and chip away
Mhm.
over time, and you've just become so much, so comfortable to the point where when I jumped on at the beginning of this year to start recording again, I know I've been having a bit of a learning curve and paying attention to how you handle certain situations and getting rid of my ums and ahs, because my goodness, you probably hear that in the audience. It drives me nuts editing these, but it's just kind of a cool way to grow. And we've had business extensions from this. We've developed other podcasts for other clients. Xaulanda, you and I partnered on a podcast
Yep.
with our good
Yep.
friend Tristan. We've just had, I think, so many extensions that have come off of this, that even today, that we still maintain this as a labor of love. We haven't corporatized this to solicit sponsorships. Not to say we would never consider it, but we
Right.
just do this every week because this is a way to for us to connect. Again, Xaulanda, you mentioned we're geographically separated, but again, just to come around, and to me, it's therapeutic to bring on a new guest. Oftentimes, I don't know who they are, and I get to learn about somebody new and their business and their perspective. And again, just similarly from you. So 200 episodes and hopefully a lot more to come from here.
Yes, definitely. But we're not going to have a brainstorming session yet to
No.
add more stuff. Not yet. Let's give it another, at least till the spring, please. Por favor. Chris, you're laughing because something's brewing. I could feel it.
I'm always tinkering. We got
You see? Xaulanda, talk to him.
You know what? Whenever Chris is ready to tinker, I'm right there with him. Just tell me what to do, where to be, And I think it's a testament to, Chris talked about this being a labor of love. I think it's also a testament to the level of trust we have in each other, that, we can be considered risk takers in trying something new. Sometimes, when you have a good thing, people don't want to break it. They're like, why mess with something that's working? But the way we all think is like, it's working, but we can make it better. We can make it more interesting. We can make it more impactful. So let's just be innovative. Let's be creative. Let's just try it and see. And if it doesn't work, well, hell, we'll just calibrate and, try something else. But, I think that's where you start to really push your boundaries and you start to really test your limitations. And that's where you really open up a space where you're able to grow. And I think that that's why, I have something to say has made it to this landmark of 200 episodes. I mean, we would have never thunk it in that road trip in Miami many years ago that we would be here. You know what I mean? The journey's been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the diversity of people and backgrounds and perspectives that have come through our doors, right, is really, really powerful. And I encourage people to go and look back at episodes or, from the beginning so they could see that transformation also of our format. But to really look at a lot of these comments and perspectives and rants, I gotta say, a lot of them were just rants, right? Or almost like a protest, right? For the injustices that were going on and that continue to happen, right? I mean, if we're going to talk about what just recently happened with Sonia Massey, right? It's like, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
it just doesn't let up. And, you can easily become exhausted, especially because, I mean, those recognitions, right, are because of advocacy, right? It's the content. I think the category was social impact and activism or something like that, right? And so, yeah, this is one of those forums that from the get, we were about busting down doors, calling a spade, right? And just being very forthcoming with how we view things that are not fair, that need to be fixed or course corrected, and providing solutions through the words and the experience from subject matter experts in our circles and that we've met. I mean, LinkedIn during the pandemic opened this up, right? When we went digital, with the video also, this really opened up an opportunity to invite people from all backgrounds and that were working in all kinds of sectors, right? From education to social justice to law to wealth management to, I mean, just health inequities, right? I mean, just everything you can imagine. But I feel that that's the common thread. And I'm very proud of that. I'm really proud that we've stayed true to our mission to empower people to speak up, right? To provide a forum where they could just come through as raw and authentically as they wanted to. And last but not least, that we were able to leave this space that we're creating with possible solutions or or at the very least, right? Like you said before, Chris, a therapy session, right? That you at least were able to unload to then move on, right? And not feel like exhausted or that no one's listening, right? We everyone is seen here. And I thank you both for that, right? Because I've learned that in collaboration with you, right? How to listen and how to just probe, but to be able to then listen. So yeah, I think it's been great.
And I think I'll just touch on the kind of the cool fact that this is so organic, and even on our the types of questions that we ask, nothing that we have is ever scripted. We don't send our guest questions in advance, which our guests out there, you probably know a lot of you were very nervous before you first came on, and like, I don't know what I'm getting into. But I think, and what we've heard as far as feedback from a lot of our guests is just the level of comfort of it being such a real conversation where they forget that they are on a podcast and in an interview. And I think that is kind of that cool aspect where a lot of podcasts, and this isn't to, obviously everything has their place, but a lot of them are scripted in a way or intended to get to a certain point. Ours is just to learn about our guest and to learn about what they're passionate about. And obviously we have, people that are tuning in to listen every week. So people are finding interest in that to learn about other people. And, that's kind of what connects us all as humans. And especially during COVID, this was especially therapeutic to get to see you guys all the time, as outsiders, and have other conversations, understand what other people were doing outside of, where I was driving safely. But yeah, no, it just, it kind of speaks to where we've developed technologically and we've made advancements in how and what we put out there, but we haven't really changed, to your point, Samí, who we are or what our approach is. We don't have an ulterior motive, even issues to impact. Yes, it is more business focused, but it's very similar. It's just we're like offering more strategic advice as opposed to like just listening to a story. We're tackling a specific issue, but I think even that is to the nature of it. We have our guests tell us what an issue is in advance, but otherwise there are no scripted questions. Again, it's just learning about people and their business, and you come as you are to the show. And hopefully as a listener, because I know we all come as we are as the hosts, and are grateful to, I think, our listeners. And I always am kind of caught off guard when somebody's like, oh yeah, I listen to your podcast, or and some of you've been recognized in New York and everything like that. So it's again been just a cool experience, and to know that occasionally we get those little bits of people that are reaching out and being like, no, I listen to you all the time, or hey, I really enjoyed this episode, or when you guys talked about this, I love the perspective. And it's awesome to be doing this for us and with our guests, but to know that it impacts other people, like that's just what helps keep me going even on the bad days. So
I think, talking about the guests that we've had on, and just reflecting back, we've had really a plethora of people from diverse backgrounds, from diverse industries, with diverse perspectives. And I think that what I Have Something to Say has created is a safe space for people to show up as they are. That not having the scripted questions or having the conversation scripted allows them to show up as they are and really be authentic in sharing who they are and their perspectives, or whatever it is that we're talking about. And I think that that's why it might appeal to a lot of different people, because it's like, it's not just one segment of the population. It really, when you look back at the guests that are here, they're really representative of, the US, who's in the US, or we've even had some people outside of the mainland on the call. So it's like, I think that's one of the unintentional secret sauces that has come out of this, because people, if you have something to say, just come on the show, say it, we have a conversation. We may not always agree, but then at least we expand our perspective and we can see things from different angles, and you're like, I hadn't thought about it that way. It just kind of broadens your thinking. And then that's something new you learn that you can either integrate or say, oh, well, I'm not going to indoctrinate that. That's good for them. But we all have the choice, as to how we move forward from those conversations, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I think so too. There's another big change that happened since the start, and is that Mr. Chris Majocha is a daddy-o.
Yes.
He's a puppy now.
Yes.
And so how do you feel that that's influenced, Chris, your perspective on, well, I know, on work and on priorities and these topics, even, right? On this kind of work. How do you feel like you've changed? Oh, this has become now the Chris Majocha episode number 200.
I mean,
Chris.
well, obviously having a kid changes everything, and just what even your values and what's important to you. for a little while, it was tough navigating, even doing this podcast and just emotionally wanted to be there with my new baby. And now I'm sending texts upstairs for people to be quiet, stomping on the on the floor. But no, it's I think it's still, yeah, to your point, Sammy, it brings in just a different perspective. I can now connect to guests who do have kids, or guests who who don't, and I can add insight from, like, well, as a parent, here's my how it works in in a parent's world versus somebody who's not, and it I think just in many ways, yeah, it's my daughter has obviously become the most important thing to me and what I work for and strive for. And I think being able to commit to something like a podcast for as long as we have, for 200 episodes, to put ourselves out there. I mean, someday when I'm long gone, if my daughter wants, and if this is even still a viewable technology, she could go back and listen to episodes, or listen to how I thought of things, or what have you. And I've never actually even thought about this until now, but
Oh my God, you're gonna make me cry. Like, I'm about to cry right now,
I mean,
Chris.
that's
This is so
we
sweet.
started this in March of 2018. I started my business in February of 2018.
Yeah.
And that was also doing documentaries to, for me, I had watched this documentary called, oh my gosh, I think it was like 40 years in the cameraman or something. It was about a documentarian who went to Cuba like over 40 years, and basically like was able to take his daughter like out of school, and count it as like learning, because she was going to experience new cultures and stuff. And for me, I was like, what a cool thing if I could, my someday kids be able to leverage like filmmaking and storytelling as a way to introduce them to other people and other cultures, and get them out of their their little box of the community that we live in. And I think this podcast is just again an extension of that. It's perspective, it's meeting new people, it's having respect for people and their opinions. And like Xaulanda, you said, being able to disagree, but respectfully, and just know that I think the more episodes we have, is the more we realize that while there are differences that make up each person, we are humans, and we are so much more alike than we are dissimilar. And this is just it's beautiful to see, like, the longer we go, the more it just anchors in, this is people, this is conversation, and this is how we have a voice and a message and a way to express ourselves, but again, and give back to just our guests. Like, I'm so grateful for our guests who've come on and shared their stories. People who've opened up, gotten emotional. Sammy, I know you've broken down a million times on this podcast. But it's but that's it. How else would you have had? We meet people on LinkedIn or in other places and invite them on the show, but sometimes I almost use that as a way, like I really want to get to know this person, so I'm going to invite him on the show, because that's going to be an easy way for us to just break bread and kind of remove the barriers. And so I don't know, I guess this podcast is, my perspective has changed, but I think this podcast has already been so much a part of me, that again, it's just what I think going to keep doing, as long as we all commit to that trust that you were talking about, Xaulanda, and keep going together.
That's awesome. And Xaulanda, you've also changed in two aspects. You became a business owner and an empty nester, aside from becoming Dr. Xaulanda too, right? I mean, a lot. This is a lot of stuff going on, right? And so how has that also changed your perspective, right? How has, or the way you move, right? In these new technologies and spaces.
So I think as Chris was starting his family with our little boss lady that we love to call her, because she's so precious, my boss lady was leaving the nest, right? And I think that as parents, when we bring these beautiful beings into the world, we we're so hyper focused on their well-being and their growth and their dreams and nurturing that environment for them, that when they go off into the world, sometimes we're like, okay, so what the heck am I going to do now? Like, I got all this time. You mean I can focus on me? Like, what does Xaulanda want? And I think that when we started this podcast, I knew my daughter was getting ready to graduate from high school. She was, yeah. So I started my PhD the last semester of her in high school, and did the PhD, started the business in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, while still keeping my ties with Urbander. And I think my perspective has changed in that I can now focus on me and who I am now, because I've learned and I've grown and I've evolved, and really understanding the imprint I want to leave in the world, right? Moving forward. And I always tell her I'm not ready, but she's getting to the age where she's probably going to start having her own family. And I'm like, okay, I need to be laying a foundation for not just her, but my grandkids or even their kids, So it's thinking of that generational legacy and that generational wealth, so they don't have to struggle maybe the way we did. Or you try to impart the lessons that you learned so they don't have to probably learn that same lesson. They're starting a little bit ahead of the curve. So yeah, it's just, yeah, when I think back, we've gone through a lot, y'all.
Yes, totally.
A lot. I mean, I hadn't even thought about it until you just asked me. I'm just like, yeah, I finished my PhD. I'm an empty nester and loving it. And I'm really focused with my business, working with the types of clients that we have shared values. I can really be invested in their growth and their success. And that's my passion point. It's like exciting stuff.
Yeah,
It's
and
just,
she's wonderful. I spent 2 days with her a couple of weeks ago, and my God, you should be so proud. We had the best time. And yeah, she's, aside from being just sweet and, adorable and kind and all of that, it's just seeing her. She's like a woman. I'm like,
I know.
where's this badass woman with this freaking amazing apartment hosting? It was like my mind wanted to explode. Okay, but in a good way. It was just awesome. We had a great time, and yeah, she's just amazing, But I mean, she takes after her mama, so.
Sammy is coming, and I want to make sure she's okay. It's like all of a sudden they're wanting to nurture us, right? And make sure we're good.
It's crazy. So
Yeah.
one thing that I did. So I'll talk to. Well, I'm still raising kids, so I'm like the ham of the sandwich bread, right? I'm like
You're in the middle.
still in this in this limbo. But one thing I can say that I was able to add, right, new and different, is that the bun is the brand, right? I mean, I couldn't deal with the hair thing during the pandemic, even the makeup thing. That I started to put on some more makeup now. But the bun is the brand. But can I tell you something? It's also caused some loss. And you know how? Because I went to cut my hair last weekend, and as she's cutting my hair, right, and layering in and taking out the split ends and all of that, she tells me at the end of the haircut, she tells me, I don't want you to be worried, but I want to make sure you go and check to see if you have alopecia or something's going on, because you're missing some hair right here on the top of your head. Right? And my daughter was with me, Catalina. And so she's like, I'm not too worried because I see hair growing, right? So it would be completely bare. And Catalina goes, it's the stick. And so then my hairdresser says the stick, and she's like, yeah. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, she came in with the bun on her head and it's the stick. She's probably digging too hard. So my dresser said, how do you do it? So I whooped up my hair, and when she saw where I put it, she's like, yes, that's exactly so. So the bun is a gain and a loss. It's a gain of a little, I guess, of a branding thing, because people spot me, right, in events and stuff. But today's the first time since she cut my hair a week ago that I put the bun, because, you know, it's 200 episodes. You know, I gotta stay true to the essence, right, of the podcast experience that people are gonna have with us. But dude, I have like a little, it's like the size of a dime bald spot right at the base of my bun. So I'm losing. You like that, Xaulanda? Baby.
I know how you put your hair in the bun. It's like,
Okay, I dig it, and I'm like, yeah, exactly. So there you go. Anyway,
suave with the hair. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta take it easy, because I'm like very passionate about everything I do. So I'm like digging this sucker into my scalp and causing hair loss. But anyway.
Well, I will actually. I'll piggyback off the off it there of the growth or the changes, because Samí, I just you already grilled myself and Xaulanda here, so I want to talk about your changes over the past few years as well. You started SOS by Urbender, Casa Culture.
Yes.
You've been selected on multiple boards and councils, etc., and just have really grown your, I think, personal brand as well as Urbender's brand, and it's been exciting to see that grow. So what is that transition been like? And yes, while you are the sandwich, your kids have gone through some very pivotal years that we've been on here, and I think we've kind of heard about them growing up on this episode, to the point where now even Catalina helps you with the business and stuff. So what is that like?
It's very interesting. I just feel like, and thank you for pointing all those things out, because I hadn't seen it like compounded like that, right? But I feel that it's because my advocacy voice has grown stronger. I just feel that, I don't know if it's the age, I don't know, it's just over menopause. I'm unhinged, right? So I feel that in the last 5 years, I've stepped into the unhinged version of Samí. Not that I wasn't before, but now it's like next level, And so, yeah, I just feel that my advocacy voice is stronger. Also, the people that I surround myself with, including both of you, right? It's like that we stand really true to our convictions of putting people first before profits, about aiding, right? And stepping in for those most vulnerable. And just setting an example for what collaboration should really look like, and just honest conversations, right? That might be uncomfortable, but that need to be had. And I got to tell you something. I think that the 5 years that we've been doing this podcast, because my kids listen, I don't realize that, right? Because I'm loud. Listen, people, before recording, we had to like play with my volume of my mic, and Chris is like, no, more, lower it more, and I'm like, is this good? And he's like, no, more, because I'm loud. But anyway, where I'm getting at is that they're listening, right? And I didn't even realize how it influenced their growth, especially during those years after elementary school, and now that they're both in high school, right? And so we have these conversations, and I'm like, who are you? Right? And so then I feel that they're coming into their own as people that are at least aware, right, of others, and that there's a space and their role is to step in, to protect and speak up for those who can't, right? And so anyway, so that makes me really proud, and it's really now that you mention it, I'm realizing it, right? Because Pedro, for example, before I had to go out, he's like, "Where are you going?" Right? And now that I'm realizing that they're asking me, and then they ask me with who and why, right? And I respond to all of these questions. So I guess in that process, they see, who I'm meeting with, why, and it's always something to advance humanity, right? It's always driven to making society and this world a better place for them. And I think they're aware of that, right? And they resist, right? Just over the weekend there, I'm trying to recruit them for this campaign that I'm working on to drive Latinas to vote in the general election. And I'm like, I need both of you. And they're like, And I was like, wait, what? And they're like, okay, yeah, you do so much for us. Okay, we'll do it. Because now they're all about respecting their privacy and their likeness and all of that. But that's okay. So I'm going to have them sign waivers.
There you go.
But yeah, thank you for asking that. I think that, 200 episodes, it's a huge, huge accomplishment, but it can't be done alone. And I want to thank you both, right, for sticking with us, and I said not with me, with us, sticking with us, right? Because I feel that this is the core team that, started this. And I'm just really happy to still be 5 years later and we're still talking to each other and loving each other. Any final comments, Chris and Xaulanda?
I'm just looking forward to another 200 plus more episodes. I mean, the people that have come onto the show, they may have come as strangers, but we've made a lot of friends in this process. We've gotten to learn a lot, and so I'm just excited for this journey to continue. And of course, I have mucho amor for both of you, Chris and Samí. I just anytime they call and they're like, let's do something, I'm like, I'm on it. I'm with you. Let's do this. Like the test is theirs. So, yeah, for me, I'm just excited. And I'm grateful. Thank you for having me on this journey, because
we couldn't do it without you.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out to Oreo in the back at Samí's house, who's been with us along the ride too.
I have a meeting now. When we're finished recording, and I just unlocked the door and texted everyone and say, just walk in, please. Right. So that's what I'm talking about.
But no, I just want to kind of close out again by thanking both of you, and yeah, I think we've circled on this a few times on this episode, but I think through the good and the bad, we have been there for each other. I know we have gotten annoyed with each other at different points, or didn't agree with certain decisions or what have you, but for the respect and the love that we have for each other, we've kept this going. And again, I just want to thank all of our guests. It hasn't been 200 guests because we've done some episodes with just us, but still well over 150 guests that we've had on these episodes. And to our audience that, whether you're tuning in for the first time or who have been with us since the beginning, just thank you. And yeah, please let us know when you see us or when you've found something impactful, because it really does help us. We're always open to new ideas. Maybe not Samí so much, but I'll be tinkering. So let me know if you have any ideas for the podcast. And again, just looking forward to continuing to develop. Issues to Impact is, for me, extremely exciting. I think we're even still trying out new technology things and ways to get more content out there for you guys. So, cheers to wherever this takes us moving forward. But yeah, this is now a part of me. I think a part of both of you, and hopefully to our listeners, become something that we can all, as Xaulanda said, have as a safe space And when you have something to say, to let us know, and we'll get you on the horn, and just have a conversation and break bread. So that's what where we started with, and what it's all about. So thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, and so we're gonna do this again next week. Okay,
Sounds
I know
good.
I can count on you. Okay, bye. Love you guys.
See ya.
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. Thank you for tuning in, and tell your friends to find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to show up and speak up.